have seltzer water. It's a sad
So do I.
seltzer.
Bubbly. A little bubbly.
Just kidding. It's not bad.
All right.
It's really bad.
Gather round, my friends. Gather round for our last time here in Svilland, at least in this contiguous format, right? We're going to do a little wrap up. We're going to do a little bit of perhaps storytelling, role playing as we kind of denouement a few things, if I'm using those literary terms correctly.
You are.
Latin's great.
And then do some
That's
Q&A and talk about the ups and downs and the secrets to things that maybe anyone wants to know, to include you, the audience. You are also able to ask questions when we get to that kind of part. If you have any burning questions, please feel free to put them in the Twitch chat. If you are, of course, watching this post live, number one, thank you. But B, you cannot contribute to the chat because time travel
is illegal still.
Technology that Twitch
Send us a tweet. Send us a tweet. We'll try to answer
That's true.
it. Yeah. Send us a
yeah,
tweet.
Yeah.
Or TikTok.
Anyway,
If people are still using those in the future, if not,
send us a
contact
TikTok.
us in your way, future man.
right.
TikTok us. Now,
Anyway, happy Thursday. We're the Superior Adventurers Guild. Welcome to Svilland. This is, again, the final episode of Midwinter Keening. And thanks to my friends for making it awesome. Let's meet those people right now.
Oh, Michael, you thought it was the cosplay episode, obviously.
Hi-yo.
It looks awesome. It looks really good.
Yes.
There we go.
Where's the hat?
Silly hats. My hat's in the other
He has
room.
them all. He's got it.
He's got him back there somewhere.
Put a cloak on. I could put a cloak on and get my hat.
Get your hat on.
I have hats.
There we go.
It doesn't fit with the headphones.
Yes.
Neither does
That's
this.
why-
It's just floppy
That's
enough
why
that you don't
that's
notice.
why I went Bluetooth earbuds so I could wear
yeah.
fucking hats and shit.
Yeah, that's
Fancy
fair.
pants. It's so
All
bougie.
right.
So bougie, Chad.
God, I'm so
Anyway.
warm now.
Yeah, right.
Hey.
That's why I'm not getting my wool hat out.
Thanks for the
anyway,
follow.
Please introduce yourselves.
Who's gonna start tonight?
I mean, we used to have an order.
I know.
that it
That
hasn't been
lasted like
used in
2
quite some
episodes.
time.
I know. I used to always go first.
It was like the first 3 months we used the order.
Did we really?
well.
Yeah, it was Andy.
Yeah.
Always went first.
Yeah.
Do it.
Somebody usurped the order.
Oh man.
That's okay. I don't like to go first all the time. But I'll go first tonight. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
How's it going? My name is Andy. In this game, I played... let me bring up my... Okay. I played Stieg Egilson. He was a rune walker or a wizard.
He's not dead yet, dude. You can say is.
He is, yeah.
He's still alive. He did not die. He didn't fall in a river
Yet.
or
Yeah, you
kill
guys-
Off the
himself.
cliff.
They made
falling
it back
off a
to
mountain.
Mulgore, right?
He had horrendously low stats, so he was always falling down and hurting himself
That's true.
and casting lots of spells and having fun.
Can you say his name one more time?
Stieg Egilson.
Aw.
That part the
Mm.
most.
Is that what you'll miss?
Yeah.
Stieg Egilson.
Mhm.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ashley, and I play Astrid Boulder's daughter. Or I did, because this is the last one, so until today, Astrid Boulder's daughter, cleric, Gothi of Mine or Mine. And that is the psychic domain of agony. This was my first stream campaign. So the first time I ever streamed was
that's
on
right.
Svilland.
Hell yeah.
And it's
Nice.
been a wonderful
You crushed
time.
it.
You did.
Yeah.
You took your
Yeah.
hands and just
And-
destroyed it.
You almost
Ah.
broke the game.
That is accurate.
Damn clerics.
I just remember being so afraid. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna play on camera. Yeah.
You did great.
And then you met us, and we're like, I don't have to worry
I can't
about
be
it.
as bad as these guys.
These guys are idiots.
Yeah.
Look at the hat I'm wearing.
Correct.
Looks normal to me.
Go ahead, Michael.
Hallo, jag heter Michael och jag lek Gunder och alla av Thor. Detta var fredagar Timmy och jag med Mikkels alla lek menina och särskilt saltlägga vinu DM och har Chad.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm terrified that Andrew may have caught like 3 words of that and said your pronunciation is fucking terrible.
It's
that
okay.
was-
I don't know. Was that
Good.
Icelandic? I have
That
no
was an
idea.
attempted Icelandic. Hi, I'm Michael, and I'm an
I recognize a
alcoholic.
couple of words, but
Hey, I played Gunder, an Ala of Thor, which is a paladin. It's a lot of fun because paladins, once you get them running, do a lot of fun things, and I did a lot of fun things. Yeah. What else am I supposed to talk about?
Do they do a lot of fun things, or do they really just do like 2 things, and those 2 things are fun, and they're really good at them?
There were several fun things because it's in this campaign. I had a cantrip I never got to use. I was a paladin who had a
Oh.
cantrip.
What cantrip was it?
Shocking grasp. Zap zap, motherfucker, zap zap.
You never used it?
No.
Oh,
you
no.
know.
Sword with better damage.
Yeah.
it's a touch cantrip.
Yeah,
Right?
Mm.
So it's like you do that or your sword.
yeah. It's like I get why it's there. It's cool to have for flavor. Why not?
Yeah.
So you
But
can
let's
make
see.
Shen stuff.
It would have been cool to like go in for a handshake on like a bad guy and then just zap him.
It still may happen.
Yeah, I would love to see
We
that.
don't know.
I'm in for that.
We'll get into the fun other things Paladin does later after the last person introduces themselves. That, of course, being the illustrious, the inimitable, the indomitable, infallible, definitely infamous, and incorrigible Dave.
Definitely fallible in many ways, but thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. My name's Dave. Oftentimes you'll find me running the Saltmarsh game on Wednesday nights. You can also find me on Twitter. I have had a blast playing with this crew. So much fun running around in Svilland and seeing what this world was like. So Chad, I really, really appreciate you bringing us into this world. I got a chance to play Vidar Gormson, who is a ranger, a Scotty ranger, which is a ranger archetype in this cool Svilland setting. And they are all about winter survival, cold. They're well suited to the cold environments of the wicked north that we played around in. So, and I was pleasantly impressed with the ranger in this setting. It was very, very useful. So
You were dope as fuck, bro.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
very
fun.
useful.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so thank you to all you and Chad and everybody who hung out with us in the chat throughout this campaign. It was super awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We were really blessed in many ways during this campaign to also be sponsored by the creators of Svilland, Dream Realm Storytellers. They're I guess now a fairly prolific. They've done like 4 Kickstarters now with 3 like setting books and
Yeah.
1 to 20 level campaign. They're out of Turkey, which when I originally found out about it, I was like, that's different, but it was. I was not, and I don't say that in a bad way. I was just taking a little bit of a back, like, okay, but it's awesome. They do fantastic work. And we have really appreciated their sponsorship, donating things like PDFs. I feel like there was there a physical book that they donated? I don't know.
Well,
That's
at
not
one
right.
point we gave away their whole library,
That's what
which
it
is
was.
like
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
books, and we gave and
Yeah.
their Jason from TTRPG was asking about the music. They have a soundtrack that you can get on Drive Through RPG. We gave that away a few times. I mean, they were very generous to us, and that was awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
So if any of y'all are watching, thank you, Dream Realm Storyteller dudes. It's been great.
The DRS team, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have a novel.
Nice. Yeah. Yep. There's even a novel. Yeah. I have.
Quick question, Chad. How did you? Because you originally kickstarted the original book, right? The campaign. How did you hear about them? How did you find out about them?
Well, if you're watching this and you don't really know me, let me tell you a secret that every one of my players knows. I love games, and really? I love like Northern European history. That's one of my like sub hobbies, right? And so I don't remember exactly where I had heard about it, but I had backed like I think the same year that Svilland came out, I had backed a Kickstarter by actually written for a like a Viking inspired.
I remember that one. Yeah.
A guy from Minnesota, which I was like, oh, a guy from Minnesota, like that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't you know?
I know. I'm sorry, but I'm really annoyed that I spent money on that. But well, it's a thing. It's a well done.
Spoiler alert.
But it's only a quarter of a book.
Oh yeah, I remember he's mentioned.
That's a whole story. But anyway, but I think probably like it was probably like maybe it was like a podcast or maybe I was just scrolling through Kickstarter, which I often do, and I found it and I was like, this looks fucking awesome. Like the art was super cool, super evocative, and like a lot of things. I think that's like one of the big things for me. I'm finding that like having good art is going to hook me real fast.
They have excellent fucking art.
The art that they had in the original book, in like the first version of the book is good. Some of it's been replaced in the new revision that happened just last year. But either way, I have both PDFs and all of the arts are great, super evocative. And then just the way they approach the lore, and kind of like fantasy riffed off of like real world lore and how they integrated things and were able to like take certain things in kind of like and like really like I guess be what's the word I'm trying to say, like really like honor the concepts of like the real world things, but then still make it like work in a fantasy context, and kind of give it their own spin. I really appreciate it as the Kickstarter wore on, and then I was reading things and then finally, because I don't think I backed it right away, the first one, but then all of the other Svilland, the other two Svilland Kickstarters, or the other one Svilland Kickstarter that they did, I was like, first day, I was like the third backer on the Faceless Tears 1-20 campaign Kickstarter. But yeah, anyway, that's
it's very
long way around. Yeah, one of the thing I really like that they did is how they kind of handled like the gods and like religion and how they like integrated it into the story of the game was really good. So yeah, that's a long way around of how I found it. Yeah. So if you're out there watching this and you're like, I have an idea for a Kickstarter, let me see it and you'll get at least one backer.
And have good art. That's the other lesson.
I don't care what it is. I'll probably back it.
Have a good art.
Starter addiction.
I don't want to talk about it. The number of Kickstarters I backed in 2020 was fucking stupid.
And it's a problem when you start to forget about them and all of a sudden you're like, what's this that I just got in the mail? Oh yeah.
Yep.
I have not had that happen, I swear.
I'm waiting on at least 3 myself.
Yeah. Anyway, let's do a little bit of denouement action, and then we can get into some more chit chat, Q&A, and random BS. So, just as for any of you watching, I'm going to do a kind of a brief, off the cuff, unbullet pointed synopsis of the whole thing. I know Ashley's like, how the fuck are you going to do that? Like, there's no way you can do that. I'm going to try.
Anything's possible.
It's true. Anything is possible.
Especially with Chad.
So this whole thing started off as a sort of impromptu rescue mission in the middle of winter. The party kind of knew each other. In some cases, knew some of each other a little bit better. They're all from the same fairly small town in the north. Literally, it's known as the last town in the north. A young boy had dashed into the inn at the middle of the day, crying out about how bandits had assaulted his farm. And so the party, of course, being a party of would-be heroes, dashed out into the winter to rescue them. And of course, it quickly became a sort of like, things escalated very quickly. There was a battle with some bandits. They rescued some people. And then there was a battle with those bandits again, as they had been risen from the dead as Draugr. And then it progressed to a series of similar bandit raids that reports started coming in, as well as increased Draugr activity. That's to say that there's normal Draugr activity, but there was a rise in Draugr and undead activity in many places, which resulted in a very interesting battle again against both Draugr and bandits. This time, though, the Draugr were coming up out of the bog, and although I really wanted to get somebody into the bog, those Draugr had the ability to grab onto you and then drag you into the bog. And I got like one step. I got one person grabbed and pulled a little bit towards the bog. I didn't get anyone in the bog.
I think it was me.
It was you, yeah.
Yeah, it was almost
I really
in a
tried.
bog.
I just
really
tried.
tried.
I know you did.
There was, of course, then right after that battle was also about the time that they kind of got their first glimpse as to what or who would end up being the kind of the big bad, right, to use the common parlance. Just saw very far off. There was also a meeting with a very interesting individual, perhaps a legendary individual. Some songs were traded, and then there was somebody got kidnapped. There was a chase across a river that was frozen through some snow, a fight with some weird quasi-possessed wolves and vultures, which of course led to a fight at a very picturesque standing stone structure at the top of a waterfall, which ended up also involving the spirits of people that were ripped out, and then they had like crazy frost abilities, and that was scary as shit. There was a secret cooning sort of kind of protected area with some interesting loot left in a very Skyrim fashion, just laying under a bench. Also, of course, in some wrapped corpses. There was which kind of led the party to ask some people in charge, as of course they're at the proverbial bottom of the food chain. They're like, hey, we've been doing all this stuff. What the fuck is going on? But then, of course, there was also, that might have been after the fight, where there was the invasion of the town, where the veritable legions of hell with one L were invading the town. There were massive blubber dudes, big fat guys with meat hooks on chains, and guys with whips, armies of undead. And so that was pretty crazy, which included a possessed girl that they had to old yeller. They had to old yeller the possessed girl to stop her from blowing up the town.
Yeah, we're still guilty about that.
Unfortunate, but and then there was some interesting discussions with a number of individuals, the Jarl, the kind of rune keeper of the town, the law keeper, to find out what's going on, who some of these, like who this barefoot guy was, who the Magnus, the big bad was, and kind of these things that had happened in the past, and they had also, of course, learned that there was some other movements of people in power happening by this guy that they had captured back at the Standing Stone fight. So they had a little bit of answers. They got a little bit more answers. They then went into Rangorn, the haunted forest, seeking out. What's her name? Where's my book? Oh no, I put it on the shelf already.
I forgot her name, but Ranger.
Yeah, Longstrider was her.
Gurney,
yeah, Gurney Longstrider. She is like a super powerful ranger sort of person that kind of protects the town from things that might come out of the Rangorn. They were able to find her cabin, I guess ultimately with their help, as they were getting teased by the haunted spirits of the forest, and attempted to be tricked and led astray, and she kind of led them to another point to say, hey, you can go do this thing, get this, so that way you can go to this other place, which is where they ended up going, which is Fogbear's Village, which is a super secret sort of ruin, haunted, cursed sort of place that they needed a MacGuffin, as it were, to kind of navigate around in.
And to prove how awesome Stieg was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They then, of course, also there was there ended up being a little bit of a side, so they fought a giant ice worm thing. They got a cool crystal. There was a little sidetrack as they found some bandits with a frost jotun and a draugr and a weird, crazy forge on the side of a mountain. There was an avalanche, so that worked out really, really well. I didn't think of that. I don't know how I didn't contemplate the possibility of an avalanche. They kind of saved the frost jotun. They kind of saved the draugr. They found a crazy weapon that was broken, and they threw it into the furnace. They got the sword that Ashley's character Astrid had kind of been hunting for a number of years, as it had been stolen from her and her people. They then, of course, made their way to Fogbear's Village, got a little lost in the fog, managed to find their way to where they needed to be, fought some guys, fought some spirits, fought Magnus, fought an undead frost jotun draugr. That was rad. And again, didn't fall off of a mountain. I guess that wasn't really on the table. But
hey, we almost fell off that bridge.
Could have. It could have.
Yes,
close.
we did. Those Yetis, right?
And then, as you have, as you, the party, as you have kind of finished you've made your way out of I keep wanting to say Frogbear's Village. You made your way out of Fogbear's Village. Of course, stopping as you were at the boundary, and there was a sort of heartfelt farewell, maybe out of left field, perhaps, as Vidar said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to stay here. You guys go on without me." And Astrid and Gunder and Stieg said, "All right,
Peace out.
we can't make you come back." You know?
That sounds like a reasonable thing to do. See you later.
Yeah, and
Bye.
yeah, so we'll start with kind of the three of you. So I guess what are your what's your immediate plans?
Start a traveling band?
For
Nice.
our character, you mean?
Like, you've just left Vidar. What's next? What are your immediate plans?
Well, I think the idea was to head back to Mulgore, right?
Mhm.
Go back home. Stieg has some plans to spread the news of our amazing victory in our fight against evil, and I'm sure exaggerate some points of it pretty wildly.
No.
As all good tales must.
Yep. But yeah, head back home. Enjoy the spoils.
Yeah. Astrid would go back home, but she also, go back to Mulgore, which is not her home. But from there, I think she had a contact or name of somebody who she was supposed to, or her group was supposed to deliver the sword, the Hand of Manny, to. So that would be a top priority for her. To return that sword. And if she couldn't find that person or didn't know where they were, she would have to return back to Kirksholt, to the Cult of the Faceless, which is her church, and give the sword back to them and tell them that she's still alive because she just didn't report in for like 2-3 years.
Like you do. I was actually just looking. Kirksholt is actually a fair amount of a drive, as it were.
Yeah, it's far away. So that's a journey.
Yeah, it's like
Somewhere around 1 million miles.
300, 400 miles.
Yeah, it's probably not a journey she can take by her lonesome.
Chad, are you able to ping it on the map that you've got in the VTT?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of on that right side.
Yeah. It didn't feel as far in the old map.
Feels that way now.
Can you ping where Mulgore is then too?
Yeah.
Or kind of try to get them both in the...
Yeah, there's
You have to
Mulgore.
draw a line between the two that would be a likely
you
traveling
could.
route.
You could circle them.
Yeah, there's Mulgore.
Well, up the river, I think,
way
mostly.
up by the
Oh, yeah.
mountains.
So there would be a short jaunt over to that river and then up the river and then over to Mulgore.
There. I drew a line between them.
Is
There
it
you go.
Kirksholt, like lower?
Yeah, it's lower. It's off the map now.
Oh, it is off the map?
What's interesting
It's
is
one of those big big squares.
Yeah.
there's actually
There,
a
now you
lot
got
of
'em.
cities
Now you
on
got
that
'em both.
route too. I was just looking at it. Like there's Katzel and
Oh, right here.
Bram and Katzar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah.
So you three
It's a long ways.
journey back to Mulgore. It takes you a couple of days. And as you are kind of making your way across the that kind of if you remember, well, I guess if you yeah, never mind. So maybe as you get kind of across as you cross the Red River and get kind of on the Mulgore side of the river, maybe you're like a day or so away, you start to see a sort of column of smoke, a fairly large one, in the direction that you're heading.
Well, I suppose we're marching through the night then.
As you continue on, there's a couple of times you either engage or you don't engage, but you kind of encounter a couple of small bands. Maybe maybe one of them's as small as 3, and maybe one of them's as large as like 10 or 12, of kind of fucked up, beat up, cut up dudes, like kind of not unlike a lot of the guys that you have faced in battle recently, kind of shabby looking, and they're kind of like fleeing. They're not always, neither of these groups are kind of together, and you probably see a couple of other as you make this last leg, you see some other maybe often it's just, there's a guy fucking running along a tree line over there or whatever. You kind of see some scatterings of fellers, and as you get closer and closer to town, kind of that smoke plume kind of dies down quite a bit, so that when you arrive in town or at town, you can see that a section of wall, one of the guard towers has been kind of burned. There's some number of buildings have been burned, and you can see as you kind of enter town, you can see there's kind of people keeping watch as there had been before, and they're kind of a lot of them are kind of bandaged up. You can see bodies kind of in that. If I go to the, I made a map.
You made a map.
I also want to point out that, wow, Inkarnate, great job, by the way, but thank you for, now that I have finished this campaign that takes place entirely in snow, thank you for now just including Winter Village options.
We are ahead of our time.
I did these by hand.
He individually pixelated every one of them. It's crazy.
Of course, all of the snow on the buildings is microscopic 2-minute tabletop snow assets that I shrunk down and put on these buildings. But anyway, you can see that some of these farms, some of them a number of them you can see had been barricaded, and some of them have been burned, or not burned, but just kind of maybe wrecked a bit. And you see a scattering of bodies around. No, you can't climb up there, Miss Windu.
You can if you believe you can, Miss Windu.
You can see dead bodies that haven't been kind of addressed yet. Kind of litter like this whole ground. Looks like there was some kind of quasi large.
There was a firefight.
Right, there was exactly. Has happened, and as you kind of enter into the town, you can see that the Storytellers Inn has taken some damage. It looks like there's kind of an impromptu sort of, perhaps an impromptu field hospital sort of thing has been set up. As you can, there's a number of like fires out front, like campfires, where a couple of people that you probably recognize are kind of boiling water and cleaning stuff, sheets or whatever, cloths of some kind. You can see what's the herbalist girl's name?
Haldora.
Yeah, Haldora. You can see Haldora. She's like directing a couple of people as there's like mass quantity healing, like poultices being made and that sort of stuff. As the town is kind of recovering from whatever has happened.
Gunder will have immediately like gone over, found where the worst injured were, and 5 hit points, 5 hit points, 5 hit points. No infections for anyone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run over and just hug Haldora wherever she is. I've been gone for a couple weeks, maybe.
Yeah,
roughly 10 million years.
She almost is. She's kind of like not quite as like kind of shell shocked as after like the hell invasion, but
The hell invasion, if you will.
Yeah, right. She's got that kind of 1,000-yard stare. Like she's exhausted. She's probably been doing this for some time. It takes her like a second or so, a few heartbeats to kind of like, what, who? And then she's like, oh my God, you're still alive. Yay.
Oh my God, it's sabotage.
Sabotage.
Listen, all y'all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you help out with some healing of folks.
Absolutely.
It is much appreciated. You heal a number of people. Stieg, what's your first reaction? What do you?
Rage.
Just hit the fan. Just hit the fan before it's coming down.
Tavern.
What are you doing? These two immediately go into like, I'm a healer mode.
Yeah, I can't help out with that too much. I would help out, like, if there was, people need to be cared for, I guess. I don't.
You're just like cauterizing wounds.
Yeah.
Fire cleanses all.
Firebolt.
Yeah.
All your arms off. Firebolt.
Cleaning blood off people, maybe. I don't know.
Prestidigitation for sanitation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Some
Prestidigitation.
basic.
I love it.
Yeah, some basic mending cantrip.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd probably check on my family.
Okay.
Oh, they're all dead.
And I'd check on.
Yeah, you're
Sam,
now
of
the heir of a
course.
sheep farm.
Ooh.
Time to step
Welcome
up and be the
home.
man your
A
dad
sheep
demanded.
empire. Thank you very
Sheep
much.
Empire.
Sheep
A sheep
Empire.
fire, if you will.
Yeah, you go out, you help some folks and do what you can, and you're able to track down your family. And give me a D20 roll, Stieg. Let's have a roll this session.
Ooh.
One moment, I don't actually
Wait, are we
have
gonna-
the VTT open.
Figure out how much of his brother is missing now.
How many of his family is still alive? How many toes have been
Last time it
lost?
was like a finger or something.
Yeah, last
Yeah,
time my brother,
roll a D20 for how many. Roll a D100 for how many
How
my
many
digits
brother
sheep
have
lost
been
a
lost.
finger.
How many sheep are dead?
Hold on one second. I'm getting there.
You just had the VTT open.
Yeah, I didn't
Literally
think we'd
right
need it
there.
tonight. Okay, here we are.
Yes.
This VT hates me. Ah,
Oh wow.
Hey,
19.
finally.
Your
It's really come
family, of
around.
course, very, very resilient. They are still alive after losing a total of 19 digits.
That's impressive.
I'm just
Somehow
kidding.
their fingers and toes
Each.
always give them away. I don't.
Right. Your family is they're now club hands. Your Steeg club hands. No, they
It's hard to shear sheep with no fingers.
right.
Right.
Sheer torture.
They have they have survived. They are a bit shell shocked. How many siblings did you have? I'm sorry. How many siblings do you have?
Did.
Just the one.
Yeah.
Did you have?
Did
No
you have-
reason.
He's wounded. He'd been wounded in the battle. Like got a nice, like Hollywood picturesque arm cut that like in real life it means you can't use your arm anymore, but in Hollywood it just means chicks dig me now more, right?
A tasteful wound.
A tasteful wound, yeah.
Actually-
Go ahead.
I was about to say, once Stieg is done with his family, after working on the healing, Gunder does have to check on his sister and her family as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, roll a d20.
Oh boy, 20.
Oh, wow.
Yes. She's had 2 kids since you've been gone. Miraculously,
Twins?
the family has now grown even more. No,
One of them's
yeah,
now
they're-
Thane.
Yeah, they have survived. Your sister and her family are whole and hale. You can see that your sister now carries a stick that she has notches cut into.
Oh.
Oh.
It's a little gnarly, the stick. It has some red stains on it.
It's a good stick.
Yeah.
He's proud of her.
Also happy to see you. As you all are kind of going about these things and checking in on your families and or your friends, and helping out, maybe after some time, you are kind of each approached, or if you happen to be near each other, kind of approached together, by a youth, now of course blooded for sure, not just an unblooded warrior, now a full-blooded warrior. Shoot,
Full
I
of
don't-
blood, that guy.
I don't know what their names
So
are.
much
Where are they?
blood.
Covered.
Drang is unblooded. But anyway, a nice a warrior, cool bird, along with them to kind of denote that they are a member of the Jarl's household, and you are bid to come at once to the Jarl's house.
Are we
Okay.
in trouble or are we being rewarded?
I think that will depend on what we have to say.
That is not for me to say. And you go to the Jarl's house, and you can see kind of as you're kind of making your way across that section of the town that there was there had been even this far, not unlike the last battle that happened here, there had been fighting almost up to the Jarl's house. And the youth leads you into the hall, and you can see that the Jarl is kind of laid out on a like on a table,
Oh,
and he's kind of like half propped up, like maybe there's some like cushions or some kind of pillows or some blanket stuff behind him. He's heavily bandaged, and you can see even kind of in the kind of ill light of such places, that there is some nastiness that is kind of coming up out of a bandage. You know, he's got no tunic on, heavily bandaged.
Sexy chest though.
He, as you come in, he kind of notices you and kind of waves you over. And he says, you've returned.
We killed Magnus, as you requested.
Gunder will in fact pull out the bag with the head in it, and then pull out the head.
Oh, I forgot we took his head.
I didn't.
Probably a little gross now.
Yeah,
It's
good to have
below
powder,
freezing.
though.
It's winter.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
true.
I suppose.
Yeah, it's well preserved. And he kind of he gives a smile, like a kind of a half smile, like good. And he motions for one of the kind of one of his nephews or whatever to come over, and he said he tells the kid, yeah, you know, go mount it on a pole
Fucking
out
pike.
front. And he kind of takes the head from you and takes a spear and walks out. And he says, well, after the kid leaves, he said, the Jarl he says, well, as you can see, things haven't been entirely peaceful here. You've taken some losses.
Oh,
Yes.
Well,
so you mean Vidar?
well,
Yes.
Vidar is still alive. He just decided not to come back to town right now.
Oh,
What happened here? We didn't know there was a battle here.
no, not maybe a week ago. In the last 5 days, a large force of bandits, some of the same sorts that we've seen and been dealing with in the last few months. They came in force. Angst was with them.
Oh, Gunter, isn't that the that person that you didn't like very much?
That is like the the big old
Yeah, the
giant-blooded
Yeah, that's
bodyguard.
the half
Yeah.
Jotun bodyguard of Haldus.
the
Haldus.
other inn owner, right?
And the
No.
first thing that comes out of Gunder's mouth is, "Huh, Haldus finally show her true colors."
It seems.
Did he live?
Angst?
Yes.
Yes. Last anyone saw him, Saman was casting magics at him and he was fleeing.
Good. That means I can still find him.
But yes.
Where's Haldus then?
She's not been seen.
She was not at Fogbear, nor was she at the Forge with the others.
You think she
Huh.
was a part of that?
I find it unlikely she wasn't.
Well, were they undead or were they just bandits?
There were men.
Oh,
There
this
was
is
a
a
lot of
different
them.
group.
No, we had thought it possible that there was someone inside the town working with them.
Well, didn't we think that Magnus was behind all of the attacks?
Yes, but he may have found a way to work Haldis into his inner circle. She was an ambitious woman.
She was. Well, I'm of course a man of my word. I apologize for the lack of ceremony that this will have, but I'm kind of fucked up right now.
Oh, I could
Yes,
help
good.
a little bit. And Astrid will cast Cure Wounds at 3rd level.
He seems better, but you definitely can see that there's some kind of like angry like lines, like
Oh.
some
Like a
kind of
demon
perhaps
plague.
some kind of infection or something that you can kind of see as like kind of work is like kind of coming up out of a bandage.
Oh, I'll cast Lesser Restoration. It's level 2. And see if that does anything.
It won't.
Okay.
It's a special kind of nastiness.
It's a narrative
I-
nastiness.
It's narrative nastiness.
The worst kind. Oof.
Yes.
Right. I
The
do not
dreaded narrative
have.
wasting.
I don't have that level
Uh,
spell.
But he looks better after the healing, and he thanks you. And he motions for somebody, and kind of I don't remember his name. I put my notebook on the shelf. I'm not going to get it now.
Fuck
but,
it.
His kind of like steward kind of comes over and has a box, and he opens the box, and there are kind of 4 gold torques. And he takes 3 of them. He says, well, if Vidar ever shows up again, you know, this one's for him. And he hands them to each of you, and he says, by all that is in my power, I name you Thanes of Mulgore, protectors of our lands, of the north, of our people. How say you?
Cool. Does that mean we can build property in town and we get follower now?
Thank you.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I like
I
it.
apologize. I stepped on that moment.
Different-
I is the
You did,
actual
you did,
response.
You did, yes. And he seems appreciative. He says, that's all I got right now.
That's all we need.
I'm tired. Well, you can regale me with your story perhaps on the morrow, and I must rest.
Thank you.
Um,
Do we wear this, or what is?
Yep.
Is it an arm
Is
thing?
it an armband or a
It's
Or
a
neck
like a
torque.
neck torque?
Yeah,
Okay.
you wear.
Okay.
It's like a neck one. Those
It's
ones are
fancy
cool ones.
jewelry. Come on.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like a horseshoe, put
Um,
around your neck,
It's gold.
but nicer.
Yeah. So yeah, let's let's go to Vidar. So Vidar, here you are.
Yes.
This town, Fogbear's Village, haunted. What's your plan? What are you gonna get up to? What are you doing?
Well, I saw something in the fog when we had defeated Magnus, and I didn't recognize necessarily what it was, but there was something strangely familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole time I have been seeing visions of my grandmother and drawing a deeper and stronger connection with Iceland, who is in my mind a gift from my grandmother to me, a means of staying connected with a a family history that I don't know anything about because I was taken from my people, but there was something here that called to me, and I think it was in that dream or that experience where I encountered death in the Rengorn or whatever that was. Made a decision that I needed to seek that connection to my kin.
Okay.
Through that, whatever that communication has been with the spirits.
So, I guess what approach do you take? That's your right. So that's your goal. That's your objective.
Yep.
And I'm into that. That's right.
Yep.
How does Vidar get there?
Sure. Probably the first immediate need would be shelter and just the survival mode of, now I'm staying here. I need to make sure that I survive physically. So that would be the first thing. Find a place that would be
some exploring, essentially.
Find a defensive, safe-ish location to build a bit of a base camp.
Okay. You even with the that amulet, kind of moving around here it sucks. It's fucked. It's rough, right? But you spend some time and you kind of over a couple of days kind of explore a little bit more. You find other kind of spires like this one that most of you begin to gather that like a lot of the kind of like important buildings and structures had been high up on these things. This building where you found Navnus was some kind of you think maybe was some kind of ancient temple, some kind of Kuning temple up here, and you find other structures. You find some kind of ruins and foundations and structures down at the base level as well. And there are some encounters that you have with some kind of the defensive spirits, right? Like the defensive system of this whole haunting mechanism. Maybe once or twice, but you're able to kind of you kind of quickly in your experience are able to kind of figure out kind of the hallmark that you're able to kind of figure out the tell, right, of like when they're coming or where they are, and so after a few encounters with them, you're able to like you can like skirt, you can like hide from them or like not be around when they're around. You're able to kind of figure that out. And you give me a let's call it like let's go perception roll.
Okay. Oh, just the first one.
Ooh.
A 1.
Oh, whew.
A natural 1.
What's the total though?
Perception. A total of 5.
5.
Wow.
Okay.
This is what happens when you break up the band.
I know, right? That sucks.
Like, no, I can do it by myself. And just
Vidar knew.
You,
He knew.
watch that solo record crash.
Vidar knew that this was a possibility, that he wouldn't ever leave this place.
Make one for Iceland.
Mm.
That would be cool.
The robot is always paying attention.
The AI is gonna take care of me, you think?
Well, I mean, all robots are just all birds are just government drones. They don't really exist.
This is an advantaged one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna be a 15.
15. You're pretty engrossed in kind of the search and kind of not encountering like these kind of defensive spirits, the parts of this haunting of this place that are would seek to like keep you out. That you don't really notice much else over the next few days. But maybe towards the end of after maybe a few 4 or 5 days, you've found a good spot that you think is defensible. It's got some exit options. It's got a roof over the top of it. It's easily repairable. With a little bit of work, you're able to make it kind of habitable after a number of days. And Iceland kind of sends you kind of an image, a connection. She kind of connects to you, which isn't necessarily something that's ever really happened before. Usually, right, you connect to her, but in this case, she connects to you. So you're a little like, what the fuck? So you're almost unsure as to what's happening at first, and then you kind of realize that you're kind of looking through her eyes, and she's kind of perched, kind of up on a piece of rock, kind of above this kind of building that you're kind of repairing, and you can see that there are kind of on the edge, almost on the edge of her perception, which is difficult in the fog, more than you would have expected, but still not, of course, entirely normal. You see some shapes kind of moving, not these kind of defensive sort of the bad spirits that you've kind of encountered before, but kind of more like those spirits that spirit that you had quasi recognized, that you had seen before after the battle, is kind of like almost like standing, if it could stand, kind of at the edge of kind of that perceptible zone, and just seems to be just kind of like watching kind of what you're doing and what's happening.
Taking note of that, I think Vidar would want to. His motivation immediately would be to seek a means of communicating, but then he sort of centers himself and says in kind of internal monologue of like, they will come to me when I am ready, or when they are ready to do so. So he doesn't, he's not trying to like force anything. He knows they're there, and he's going to kind of let things play out.
Okay. So you get your kind of base set up, you're able to, you have some foodstuffs still, and maybe you're able to kind of go out and do some hunting and make your way back and that kind of stuff.
And I'd be practicing like my herb lore, and just sort of keeping myself busy with that kind of thing.
Okay. I guess what else do you do? Do you take any other sort of action over the span of time?
Yeah, I would
to kind of I don't know, attract attention, or do communicate or whatever.
It's almost kind of, in the parlance of D&D, like he's almost kind of trying to attune to this place,
Sure.
if you will.
One of the things, Blades in the Dark term,
right? So one of the things that Vidar would definitely do after he felt like he had the survival basics, the base of the pyramid figured out, he would build a small shrine for Freya, and provide offerings to, just to kind of ask for guidance, and that kind of thing.
So you build this shrine. Give me another perception roll.
Okay. This time I got a 2, which is great. So now it's going to be a 6.
A 6.
I got Steeg's rolls.
Right.
I got Steeged.
So you get to the point where you're kind of building this shrine, and as you're kind of collecting and kind of foraging for the things that you need to build the shrine, perhaps even things that you're going to use. You might, going out and finding like cedar to use as like incense and or whatever, things like that, right? You notice in some places where you have kind of traveled, but you are fairly certain that none of those dudes that you killed probably had traveled, because it's like a little bit of field in the kind of the village area. You notice like the barest hint of a footprint, kind of as you had been kind of searching and scrounging.
I will look for a second print.
You don't find one.
I will study the print to try to learn as much as I can from it.
It's like one of those, like it's like a heel. Like there's not there's not like the front part. It's like it's just like the heel print. Moccasined, not like a hard soled boot, like a softer soled like moccasin. Probably a person of about 60 kilos. I don't know. I'm just making shit up now.
Yeah. I think Vidar would at that point kind of fade into a dark spot and just kind of sit and watch.
Okay.
And that might happen over time. I don't know, but that would be a spot that he would be very interested in looking at more.
So you kind of watch, and then maybe don't say anything, go about your business, and then maybe watch some more kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe like over the course of days or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You finish, you spend some time, and you kind of build your shrine, you get your materials together, and you put together some things as offerings, and you do whatever it is that you do, and you spend some time as well, like kind of watching the spot and maybe being a little more intentional about things that you're looking for, because maybe you're looking not just for spirits, you're looking for folk as well. And give me a perception roll with advantage.
There we go. There's a 18.
Nice. Maybe like 4 or 5 days later. It's been some time. And you haven't really seen a whole lot. Iceland has kind of seen and kind of connected with you again at some point during that time, and you've seen a different kind of spirit, kind of not the one that you, aka not the one you had seen before, but a different, but another spirit had kind of been watching what you were doing, and you're kind of on a, in your perch or whatever, kind of watching the area that you've been watching. And you notice, you kind of, you're doing your scan or whatever, and you notice like mid scan, after like about an hour into whatever this kind of search session is, whatever you want to call it, that there is an antler, like a moose paddle is now kind of laying in the middle of a bit of this ground that was in fact not there before when you did one of these, look, and then you're like, oh fuck, there's this moose paddle there. Kind of,
I would stealth forward, scanning to see if this is some sort of a trap, but I would stealth forward and approach to inspect it. This seems like a sign to me.
Yeah. What languages do you speak?
Ostrus and Mythal.
All right. There is some words carved into this piece, but it is a language you do not know. It is different. There are some pieces that look maybe kind of familiar.
This is going to sound like a very bizarre question.
Okay.
But does Iceland know what this script says?
You call her down. You hear like the wing rustle, like, and then the weight, she lands on your shoulder. And kind of very owl bird like, she scans it, and kind of reaches down and kind of tugs at the cord around your neck.
Oh yeah, those things.
And but not that. It's the token of the familiar
that my grandmother gave me.
And you're not like you're not sure what they say, but you kind of look at it, and there's like a set of three kind of these letters or what, or runes or sigils or whatever carved on your necklace, and one of them is kind of the same as something you see on this moose paddle, and
I just got chills up my spine.
but they all kind of look like it's obviously whatever it is, right? It's obviously the same language.
Got it. I will take that as a sign, and Vidar will accept that gift and take it with him.
You spend some time as you are making offerings to Freya and meditating, as you say, attuning to this place, right? And eventually, after another few days, you feel a chill as a presence is kind of behind you. You're in your space, kind of in front of your shrine. There are you have like a cedar smudge stick, so you've got that nice smell of burning cedar going. And you have that kind of moose paddle is there. And yeah, you feel a presence there, kind of in the space behind you.
Taking a deep breath, kind of breathing in some of that smoke. I will turn.
You turn, and there are 3 kind of spirits, ghosts, vaguely human shaped, kind of their kind of form morphs between amorphous spirit blob and like human parts. It's a little off-putting at first, as their kind of images shift, and they, as you kind of look at them and kind of their images kind of flicker, you see a face. You kind of see what you have to imagine is/were, right, their faces in life, and you're kind of struck. They have maybe you don't quite place it, but then you kind of connect the dots a bit, and they have kind of similar features to like kind of how Paya did and other of her ilk, the Cooning. They are generally, no, this doesn't describe it very well. But they're generally kind of shorter, a little squatter, darker. Not that you can see darker, lighter features in a ghost form, but they have that you can see the kind of cultural likenesses in their faces, and they just kind of sit or kind of stand there and kind of watch you, and after a few maybe after a few kind of awkward sort of moments, you hear a sort of kind of, if a voice could be cold, it would be that, a sort of cold, almost hollow voice, and it says, "You persist. You offer to Freya, but who are you?"
I am called to this place. I do not know who I am. I am here maybe on a fool's errand to learn that, if I may.
You hear the voice again. It kind of, it makes a sound. You're not sure what it is, but then maybe you realize that it is what would equate to perhaps a kind of laugh, and then they are gone. And we're gonna fast forward a little bit. You spend some time, and maybe we won't even get to some of it now, but you spend some time here, because it's 8:30 already.
Yeah.
You spend some time here, and you, days, weeks, you probably have a few different encounters like this over this time period, where they kind of show up and kind of challenge you. Different folks, different ghosts rather, right, kind of show up and challenge you and question you and these sorts of things, but we won't really resolve that yet. We'll leave that up into the air. But what does happen in a very real way is that you do gain proficiency in the Cooning language.
Ooh.
But only a dialect that no one has spoken in 1,000 years, because you learn from dead people.
Ancient Cooning.
Exactly. Old Cooning.
I love it.
But yeah, you definitely fall into like this, into that, the old Buddhist cycle of like waiting outside of the monastery forever and ever until the sword master finally says, "Okay, I'll train." Fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think like long term, if one of the things that I had kicked around was him multi-classing into Cedar, and sort of going into that world of Chanter of Kin. So it kind of makes sense with his
horrifying.
It makes sense with his connection to his grandmother. So, anyways, thank you. That was everything I could have ever wanted.
Now, Cedar, like for the people who haven't read the Svilland book, could you explain a little bit about what a Cedar is? Because that's a Svilland creation, right?
It is.
Yes.
Yep.
Cedar it's a new class. It kind of fulfills like almost like a druid role. They're kind of they're like a nature, like an older school style of kind of religious caster. In Svilland, their kind of paths are a person who interacts with the spirits of their ancestors, spirits of the land, or spirits of the air, I believe. And they get some fucking dope powers. They're really cool. Oh
Yep.
boy. They're super steeped in interesting kind of cultural trappings. They're
And there's an
really
entire
cool.
kind of subset of game added for dreams, if I remember, if I read
Yeah,
it correctly.
there is.
There's like
There
dreams
is.
and stuff.
Yeah, the dream realm. It's crazy. But yeah, the chanter of kin is one of the archetypes, and they are initiated into the tradition of the spirits of their ancestors. You are your past, essentially. Yeah, your ancestors fought and died for their path. Now that path is yours. So I kind of envision his grandmother as possibly dabbling in that world, and so that would be the
Sure.
connection. But anyhow, yeah.
Yeah. Are
cool
you gonna
concept.
like? Would you get like your ancestral memories, or like how does that?
I mean, you communicate. You are you kind of channel the spirits, right? They're not gods, but they're the spirits of
Yeah.
ancestors. And so yeah, I mean, I think conceivably you could. You gain proficiency in history at first level. You get ancestors guidance at third level, where you get blessing from your ancestors. So I think it would be a way for Vidar to sort of connect with what he was before he was taken by Gorm's Rangers from his family and brought to Mulgore.
Yeah, in some ways they are kind of, it's very similar to like the barbarian spirit guardians subclass. Like at 11th level they get
Yeah,
whenever you
just
take
looking at that.
damage, you can use your reaction to let your ancestors take revenge upon the source of that attack.
I like everything I've just
Yeah.
heard.
So good. So good.
Ancestors Revenge. It's so
yeah.
good.
Um,
Anyways.
so the rest of you, I guess what are your plans now for the kind of what's your what are your individual or group, or how are you proceeding going
Time
forward?
for a crusade to cleanse Fogbear, clearly.
Well, for the I think at least for Stieg, he would. I think once he gets back to the village, he's going to be more and more kind of bothered about leaving Vidar behind at Fogbearers. So he's going to be kind of impatiently waiting to see if Vidar comes back.
He doesn't.
Yeah, and so he'd probably be considering going and looking for him.
Okay.
I could send him a message.
Oh, that's right.
Fucking magic.
Magic.
That makes as
Screw
a
your
Runewalker,
dramatic
I really
tension,
should have
magic.
thought of that.
I mean, if you tell me what you want to say, I could send it to him.
Dear Vidar, are you alive?
Oh, that's it? That's what you just want to say? Are you alive?
I think he has more.
Uh,
I imagine this all happening in one night at the end.
we just
Over
want
many
to
cups.
know how you are doing. Are you going to come back to the village? And that's it.
All right. I cast sending. Vidar, are you okay? We want to know how you're doing. Are you coming back to Mulgore?
Would you like takeout?
You can reply to this message.
You can reply to this message. Well,
Yeah, you hear Vidar's familiar voice in your head. I am alive, and I will be here for some time. I have much to learn, but I do miss you. I will see you again.
he says
He says, "Fuck
that he's
you."
all right, but he's busy.
Don't bother me.
Don't bother. Yeah. Okay. All right.
That
Good to
is
know.
certainly a thing.
Mhm.
I have this sword that I really need to get back. It's, about 2 years overdue.
I think a bit longer than that. When are we leaving?
Whenever you're ready. I mean, I don't think I should travel by myself, but
No, I was
I
going to
still-
go with you.
I mean, you're
I'll go.
kind
I'll
of
have it written
badass
down
now.
somewhere about the person that I was supposed to deliver the sword to, and hopefully we could just get it to them, and then the contract will be fulfilled.
And then what do you plan to do?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I should go back.
Do you want to go back?
I'm a little concerned that I've been gone so long and that they'd be angry.
Why
But
would they be angry if they are your people?
well,
Do they normally get angry if people leave and don't come back?
I mean, usually if people leave and they don't come back, I think it's assumed that they've succumbed to Baldur's worse impulses and they are no longer who they were. I don't know anyone who's ever left who hasn't.
Well, I think you are still missing the real question. Do you want to go back?
I don't know. I've been dead a long time. So,
I mean, yeah, as far as they know, your whole party was killed.
that is true. I guess, I'll think about it, but it's going to be a journey to get the sword, and if we can't find the person it belongs to, then I will have to go back to Kirkschult and
Wait.
return the sword.
Who were you taking the sword to?
I dig out some parchment, and it says,
It's fuck me. Hang
It
on.
says, fuck me.
You gotta get your
that
notebook.
sounds like a dverger to me.
We could go to break
God.
and you could dig out your notes.
I thought it was right. It was right
Oh.
here.
Oh.
I kept
Nice.
it. Turns out it wasn't all that far away. I was just really lazy.
I just know it was north of the attack happened north of the Druden Mountains,
You
so
know what,
that it was
that's
the
not-
way we were going.
It's actually in. I think it's in the Google Drive.
Google.
Google Midwinter Keenan.
Google.
Ashley.
I have so many notes, and I don't have that anywhere who the contact was.
What page was that big map on that we were looking at earlier?
Oh, like
Anybody know?
it's towards the
What?
end.
It's at
of
the very end of the-
module.
Yeah.
The book?
Yeah. Deliver to Dvergar
Hmm.
Edie somewhere in the Molgaroth.
Oh, that's a big area.
Somewhere in the Molgaroth.
Yeah, but you guys know your way around there now.
We should
That's
have asked
true.
our friend.
The Yetis.
Wait, that
mean-
that Diverger that we met, what was his name?
Sverger?
it wasn't-
Svergen.
Stieg would
It was,
remember.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
Sturgeon.
Svergen.
Svergen.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't him.
Svergen.
Svergen Dvergen.
What are the
Svergen.
odds?
Svergen the Zerger.
Yeah.
I think, not that they know each other or something, but maybe he might have known. Could have been from the same area or something.
They could have been from the same tribe if they are both in the mountains, but they could have also kidnapped him from anywhere.
That's true.
He was actually from he
Folksall?
was I want to say he was from further Vauxhall, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was from further west.
Oh, well, then probably not.
Just for clarity, on this map, where is the Mulgaroth?
That's
North.
sorry. On the map, the Mulgaroth is now called the Northern Peaks, which I'm sorry, Dream Realm Storytellers, I don't accept.
I've got the old
when-
map up.
So
Yeah,
back in those
when the
mountains.
When
The
we
Mulgaroth
started, it was called the Mulgaroth.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
Actually,
We kept
it
it
was
the
called the
Mulgaroth.
Northern Peaks. I think in
it's-
the book it was called in the first printing of the book it was referred to as the Mulgaroth, and I was like, yes, that
That's
sounds
badass.
fucking badass. That's
Yeah.
half the reason why I chose this town as the place to run this game.
That's
I
this
remember
That
area
sounds
here,
like a
Seeing it
cool
on a
area.
map.
Yeah.
where I'm pinging right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, the Northern Peaks there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the book, in the first printing of the PDF, it was called the Mulgaroth. But anyway, so let's say this: we fade to black as perhaps the three of you are journeying out of town somewhere into the north. Quest in heart, sword in hand.
To find Edie.
And we'll see what happens. Should we come back? I think we'll come back. I would like to come back at some point. We'll come back, whether it's a short campaign or maybe just
I
a
want
long
to see the
one-shot
level
or
7
something.
ability for the Paladin
Yeah.
of Thor. So yes, I want
Yeah.
to come back.
What level were we? 6?
you're
Yeah,
6.
six.
I think
Just shy.
I do think that in the time that you all have, you can go ahead and gain a level to level 7 in whatever time.
Woo!
Obviously not right now, but
We did it.
as you like. And Dave, to include, if you would like, you
Yep.
can take a level in Cedar.
Yep.
Because whenever we do come back, there will be some time that has passed. But anyway, that's it. That's all I got.
Hell yeah.
We're done.
Woo! Thank you, Chad.
Ashley,
wow. Michael,
thank you.
Andy, that was awesome. Huzzah.
You guys were amazing. That was a lot of fun.
You're more amazing.
That was good. Anyway,
Cheers, my friends.
yeah, cheers. Skull.
Skål!
Now it turns out I am gonna drink an entire bottle of mead.
There you go.
So say we all. So we're gonna step away for 5 and then come back and keep talking.
Yeah, let's
Mhm.
let's take a 10-minute break, or let's take a 9-minute break. We'll come back
Ooh.
at 8:50 Central Standard Time, or at whatever hour plus 9 minutes. Yeah, we'll do some questions. I kind of put together a sort of half-assed, some of which we've already covered, but a little bit of Q&A. We'll kind of talk about. You can ask, hey, Michael, what's up with your character? You know, if
He's
you guys
awesome.
want to ask each other questions, if you want to ask me questions, audience, if you want to ask any of us questions, if there's anything about the setting anyone wants to know, that kind of stuff, we'll just kind of shoot the shit, reminisce, and talk about stuff when we come back. So yeah,
Chad,
we'll be
can I
back
make
in,
a-
like,
Can
Go
make
ahead.
one quick announcement before we
Yeah.
break? For folks who are watching tomorrow night, Eversalt and I are going to be kicking off our Friday night charity game stream. We're doing Knights and Bikes. So we're going to be playing a video game, which is a little different for the stream, but we're going to be raising money for Extra Life. So there's some information in the chat. Check it out. Join our team and help us raise funds. Darth is helping us out. You want to be cool like Darth and the rest of us? Get in on the action. We love you, and we'll see you in a couple minutes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for rating. We have just wrapped up the kind of denouement of our Midwinter Keening game. We're about to get into some Q&A. Thank you so much for the raid. If you've seen us before and have any questions, we're going to take like questions and stuff. If you just want to hang out and just see what we're about, welcome, hang out, see what we're about.
Rock is what we're all about.
Welcome.
The Role Players Guild. Thanks for joining us.
Goth Mom, hope for TTRPGs.
Hell yeah.
I'm not in my mod view, so I can't actually see who's in the. Let me go into my super secret view so I can see who's
Hope.
in the chat.
Hey, Hope. Thanks for being here. We appreciate that. You're awesome. Hope is great. Does a ton of promotion for the TTRPG community. Thank you so much for being here. That's awesome.
So yeah. Wasn't really intending on drinking this entire bottle of mead today, but I guess I am.
That's where we're at.
It happens.
Really big.
That was my first one-on-one on stream ever.
Wow.
So thank you. Cheers. That was
welcome.
Fun.
Thank you. That was good.
I'm excited to ask you guys some questions.
Oh no, I didn't study for this test.
That's okay. It's a freeform test. You know me. I can't even follow my own rules half the time.
Well, rules are made to be broken.
That's right.
Woo.
You made some mead 2 years ago and you haven't drank it yet?
Sometimes you gotta let things age, bro.
That's true.
Yeah.
Age to perfection, I bet.
Fantastic. I mean, I remember one of
you brewed?
I bought a buddy of mine makes mead, and I bought like a case of homemade mead for Yule.
You'll love it.
And we killed like 9 bottles of mead. And that was just the mead I brought. There was more mead. I mean, this was like a 2-day thing, right?
A 2-day extravaganza, if you will.
Oh, we were so fucked up. I think that was the first year we actually, some of us actually stayed up the entirety of the Yule log.
Good thing to do for the whole night of the Yule log.
Yeah. Yeah, it was exceptional.
Real quick, folks who just joined us, just as a heads up, on Wednesday nights we run a D&D game in the world of Greyhawk called Beyond Saltmarsh. So come back and check that out on Wednesdays. On Friday, I already mentioned this before the break, but Eversalt and I are going to be playing a video game called Knights and Bikes, which is going to be super fun, and we're going to be doing that to raise money for Extra Life and their support for the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. So if you want to get in and come over and stop by and hang out and say hi and watch us play a game that we've never played before, but it's so cute. It is. We ride bikes. It's kind of like a little bit RPG where you can mod your bikes and like level up your bikes, and I don't know. It's a cute story of 2 young girls and their friendship and adventures. So it's going to be really interesting.
Will you be drinking mead?
I'm doing a dry Janny. I picked the wrong month to do that, though. Let's be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all yoga and healthy choices for you this month?
I'm trying to make some healthy choices for 30 days.
That's a lot of commitment.
February is just a bender. That's usually that's usually how I do it. That's right.
Dry January, wet February.
That's right. Oh my.
All right, let's get into some questions and stuff. Let's get right down to business.
Feet the Huns.
You, my friends, what were some of your favorite moments from the campaign? What were some of your favorite kind of maybe a scene that you had or a scene that somebody else had that you thought was just super cool?
I loved the avalanche. That just made my heart happy.
That was on my list too.
That was a strategic win for sure.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. I mean, Chad, what would that combat have been like in the challenge rating world of D&D if we had gone forth and fought all those bad guys?
It would have been tough.
Yeah. Like a deadly encounter, maybe?
Yeah, deadly. Like ultimately it would have been like, I kind of imagined it as kind of a running combat. Because essentially like the goons were gonna engage you, and then like the rune walker and the bloodless guy were gonna go and try to do the thing, right? And so they were gonna be like, oh, you see that they're doing this thing, you know, kind of like hint, maybe some of you should try to stop them or do whatever, and kind of utilize some of the skills that you have and the magic that you have, but then also some of the magic items that you got recently to kind of move around the battlefield a little bit and kind of engage things in different ways. Ultimately, the giant was really there just to die. They were going to kill him and cut his heart out so that they could use the power of his. They were going to use the power of his heart to kind of power and empower that spear when they reforged it. Was kind of the whole point of that part.
High in the Mulgrave Mountains.
I mean, but yeah, like the fucking avalanche was such a brilliant idea that
I'd been waiting a week for that moment.
Yeah, because we left off kind of staking it out, and then we came back the next week, kind of preparing to.
Yeah.
You know,
well, I think we were like planning for about 20 minutes in game, right? And then Chad's like, "Hey, they're all moving now," and we're like, "Oh well, shit." And then he's like, "And then that's where we'll end, and we'll come back." Yep. And so it was like a cliffhanger of like, F word. What are we gonna do? Anyways, yeah, that was a good moment for sure.
I really enjoyed actually getting to kill Calv, who ended up with the sword. So I appreciated that was like my little mini story arc, and I was able to complete it.
That was really
vengeance.
Good. Hell yeah. One of my favorite moments, there were a couple of times it happened, and I don't, you know, it was earlier in the game when we were in Mulgore and stuff, but it was whenever we would go, or when Stieg or anybody with Stieg would go visit Saman, and Stieg would recount this, like the adventures, and he would embellish and like do all this, like these hand gestures and stuff. Andy, when you did that, it was like, it just made me giggle inside because it was the comedic humor in such such a dark campaign. You know, it was fun to have those bits of humor. So I really enjoyed those parts of your role play, and I loved how tragic and how much agony Astrid brought, you know, either internally for her or externally for the people that we fought. But then there were moments that she had some humorous moments too. And then when she rubbed, one of the ones that I remember because it was most recent was when she rubbed that bear fat wax stuff on Vider's face. You know, beautiful. Like that was really a fun moment to see her kind of be playful, as well as have that, you know, that angst or whatever it was, that agony. Yeah. So that was cool.
She really had a lot of survivor guilt. And she didn't feel like she could go home, being that she's the only one who survived, and she couldn't even bring back the sword, you know, so that just kind of became what she got fixated on, is return the sword. And she didn't open up to anybody until she started to have the ability to undertake that mission. So before that, she was just kind of stuck, waiting for a chance to be able to begin this quest for her own redemption. And once we started going along and she started making friends with you guys, she opened up a lot and told you some of the stuff from her background. And yes, and then she got to play with Veter, who was a very playful character, with the skiing and the, what the bobsled scene and the snowball fights that,
The toboggan scene was
great.
One of my favorites. Was pretty awesome.
Just for people who are just joining us, there was a moment when we were after the avalanche in that fight, in that battle. We were exiting the Mulgarath Mountains, and when we got to sort of the foothills, we hopped in the pulks and tobogganed down the rest of the way, and it was really fun.
Like you
That
do.
was a good moment. moment.
I'm going to have to retire this mug after today.
Aww.
You can always be the world's okayest cleric.
Yes, you
in
will
any
be always.
campaign.
So I had a quick question for Ashley since we're talking about your character arc with the Hand of Manny.
Yeah.
I don't know if I missed this as Dave, the player, or what, or maybe it didn't come out because sometimes I'm doing other stuff while people are having moments and things like that. But what was the purpose of the Hand of Manny? So this magical sword that you had lost, your people had lost, and you were trying to find, you found. What's its purpose?
I don't actually know what the purpose was.
Okay.
What I knew is that this sword had been made by divergers, and then it had been transported to Kirksholt, and they had paid for us to imbue it with some magical abilities, which is what their clerics of the Faceless are good for, and we were going to personally drop it back off to the person who it belonged to. And
in the Northern Peaks.
That's part of the lore of the Faceless in the book, is that oftentimes they kind of collab with Dvergar and make these magic weapons or magic items for whatever purpose or reason.
So you guys were like subcontractors. The Dvergar were contracted to build a weapon, and you were kind of like the subs.
Got no benefits for it. Paid only,
you got a 1099 at the end of the year, that kind of thing.
Right? Yeah. So, something like that. But, also with something so expensive and powerful, like, one, you don't want that to fall in the wrong hands, but two, somebody might be really mad that went missing. And they might turn around and blame, my cult.
Oh, shit. So, like, when you get back,
they've all been burned down.
Yeah, they might be all dead.
That's a possibility that I didn't think of, but yes,
we're helping.
Some retribution on them.
I'm going to write that down. I got my notebook.
You definitely write that down.
Right. But, like yet another reason why Astrid would be afraid to come back, because she felt like, she somehow let everybody down and caused this massive tragedy to happen.
But you're just a child when this happened. Like, it's not your fault.
Correct.
Yeah. So what is the cult of the Faceless? Like, why are they called the Faceless? What's that bit? Because I didn't read that part of the book.
They wear the masks.
Intentionally.
Yeah. So what I was.
That's right. You had the mask. That's right.
What I was hinting at, and I said a couple of times that, so followers of Baldur, like the more they use the magic, the more they get exposed to the agony of Baldur, it affects them both mentally and physically in a bad way. It begins to cripple them, to twist their bodies, to distort them, and make them go crazy. So the masks are worn by the higher level priests of Baldur to hide the fact that they're physically wasting away from their worship of Baldur. And it's also like that ties into multiple things of like why Astrid said that her cult doesn't believe in marriage. Why like she like has never been in love, like just different things of like this is kind of off limits because I know what my future is going to be with the Faceless. So that, yeah, they wear these they're white masks that just have eyes holes in them and like no expression, to kind of like gloss over that the bad part of the religion.
That is fucking intense.
And here's the thing,
Yeah.
they're the good guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're wondering what the fuck are we talking about first, right? If you remember,
Welcome to the stream.
Balder. So Balder is a god and is still a god. Like, he still obviously offers powers to his clerics in some way, but he's also dead and is in hell, or he's in Helheim with the goddess Hel, which is like a part of the agony thing. And yeah, so there's a split in the cult of Balder, and so some people are like embrace the suck, they embrace the agony, and some people are like, no, there's still hope for the world, there's still the bright shining god that is Balder, and those people are they call themselves the Faceless. So there's like this whole like crazy ass, it's intense.
Yeah, there was actually like a cataclysmal event in the world of Svilland when Balder was killed and went to Helheim.
Yeah, that didn't happen in mythic time. That happened in actual recorded history.
Right, and like, I don't know, like the Third Age or something.
I think it was the Second Age.
Second Age?
I think so.
But what happened is half of the followers of Balder went batshit crazy. Like, just started killing people, went like chaotic evil, just
went
awful.
Chaotic evil.
Like, they flipped chaotic evil. Like, the followers of Balder are supposed
they totally
to be
weren't at
good.
first. Nope.
Yeah.
And so like they actually got run out of a lot of towns, and just persecuted that, hey, these people can go crazy, and we don't want them around.
There's a whole big section on it in the lore book, right?
Yeah.
In Untold Sagas. Yeah, I think there's a whole subchapter on it.
Can I ask?
I only thought it was a couple of pages.
Can I ask a quick follow-up to something you said, Ashley? I mean, we don't have to talk about Ashley's backstory the whole time, but
we do.
We do. Yeah, you're right. We absolutely do. That's where all my questions
have pages and pages.
I know. I literally made my backstory up on the fly. But anyways, Ashley.
Yes.
A little bit.
So, first question. So you said that like they don't believe in marriage and like all that stuff. So when Vidar kissed Astrid, was that offensive to her because of that belief, or what? How would that have been?
Because of the smell.
Well, that would have been offensive.
Honestly,
dental hygiene, folks.
I think Astrid's reaction to that was just pure shock, because she has never, because that, long-term relationships and like that kind of relationship, that love kind of relationship, has been so off limits to her upbringing. Like, she's basically understood that she will never get married. She will never like have a traditional relationship like that. She is like part of this religious organization. So she's never been open to it, and she's never allowed herself to think about that as a possibility. And so the fact that Vidar like reached out to her like that, she was just like, what? Like, what
just happened?
Right. She would have, most likely, if we played longer, she would have a lot of like denial and confusion and like, this is just what friends do, right? Kind of things.
Yep, totally.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So, I mean, I think that would definitely make her start thinking about stuff. And I do think that as time goes on, and if she remains on this path, she is a ticking time bomb, and stuff is going to
we got that. We definitely got that.
Yeah, stuff is going to start going bad. It is going to start going bad for her, and that might be something that we need to derail in some way.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we created like a whole like madness clock, like
Oh, really?
mechanic. Yeah.
Jesus, you guys.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was super.
I'm
And
glad that
most of it never
didn't
really
happen.
came up.
Yeah.
but,
How far did you get
that's
down the
how it
madness
goes.
clock?
Ew.
I
we
never got
never
on
took
it.
anything. Yeah.
Thank
So
goodness.
the higher the spell level, and we basically said anytime Astrid used a spell that was just for Gothi of Maine, like agony or
The spread,
any
or
of
your
those
like class abilities, like
necromantic-
the spread of agony.
right, or reached out to her god,
Right.
she would have to roll to see if it adversely affected her.
Right, because you're exposed.
I
to the
remember those
agony of
rolls, I
Baldur.
think. It just
Yeah,
happened
there were-
occasionally.
Couple
There were a
early
couple of
on,
times we
but-
rolled. There were probably a few that I should have made you roll, and I just kind of really didn't. But
Well, you had so many advantages. They just
Like
like
10 million
anytime
advantages.
just
Yeah.
failed.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
I think that's a huge reason of why a lot of our hijinks worked is because of the chat, by the way. And some of those folks are here right now that helped us out at key moments where we needed it, because a lot of these encounters were very difficult encounters.
Oh yeah. I mean, I kept trying to like make myself go crazy, but the chat wouldn't let me.
they helped you out. I have so many more questions, but I don't want to hog all the question asking.
I mean, I kind of want to hear this too. No, please ask it the question.
Well, I have questions for you.
Well, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Ask it the questions.
Well, so, first of all, how many, as a bandit, how many people do you think how many lives did Gunder take before he changed his ways? And you can answer that first, I guess, and then I have a follow-up.
My thought is not as many as you'd think,
Okay.
because it strikes me that like not hundreds of lives,
Mhm.
definitely killed some people, but it's one of those bandits are after money,
Mhm.
or shit gets weird in a tavern or in a bandit group.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not like a psychopathic thing where like we love killing, because
Right.
the idea is that he ended up in banditry because the same way a lot of other people did, which was he had nowhere else to go. And he's in this, the city he had ended up in was the former capital of the kingdom on the far side of Svilland. And like the new king had moved his, everything. So the town's kind of falling apart. So he ended up alone there, and it was the type of place that, there's a bunch of bandits. It would have been equally worded as almost street raft or a gang. It's
Mhm.
just for this setting, that's a bandit.
So it's like the threat of violence was a means to an end, and it's like, hey, oh, you don't want to give us your cart of cheese? Well, then I guess we do have to kill you.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
they weren't shy about it, but
Right.
you don't actually want to kill anybody because that's a problem and a pain in the ass. And he was just smart enough to be one of the ones going, we don't kill him if we have to,
Mm-hmm.
because then they're gonna try and arrest us more.
So is that how Gunder ended up on the gallows? Was
Yeah.
from being caught being a bandit? It was from the
Yeah,
banditry?
Like
Okay.
straight up, the bandit camp they were at got essentially busted. I'm not sure if it was I left it kind of open ended. If it was the camp that got busted, or they got busted during an actual taking people.
Mhm.
But he got caught by the authorities, and he was one of the ones that got nabbed, and they're like, "Nope, you're a bandit."
Everybody freeze. This is a raid.
Yeah.
I wanted
So-
to know more about the guy who sprung you
Yeah.
from the gallows.
He was a trapdoor character.
Mhm.
The character I had that, if my character died, he was a character that could show up and say, I don't know what the stupid kid was into, but I'm gonna finish it. He is technically a version of a character I played years ago in a campaign styled like this, and it quite literally just a paladin, straddling that line between paladin and priest of Odin. and I envision that you're the type of guy that you go where fate tells you, and fate's weird. You just wake up one morning and there's like 6 crows in a tree and they all look to the west and you're like, guess I'm going west today.
So he was
kind of
he was kind of the Ben Kenobi to your Han Solo.
Yeah.
Well, you were a scoundrel. Unpack that one for a minute. Was that a divine intervention in your mind?
Yeah, it was quite literally. Yeah. He got a random omen to be in that place that day. Yeah. Looked up at the gallows and went, "That kid's an idiot, but there's use in him still." And literally, he was a paladin. He's an olive Odin, so he literally walks up, cuts the kid down, looks around, and goes, "Who if you'd like to stop me?" And everyone went, "We're good. That's fine. Get him the fuck out of here. We don't care. You leave too."
That's pretty rad. I was
as
always
much as someone who is not here would have loved to have continually fucked with the one-eyed god. Nobody really fucks with the one-eyed god.
Yeah,
and that's the whole. That's kind of where Gundr got his brazen practicality for. It's like, no, just what is the solution here? Let's do that. He learned it from that guy. Except Gundr was kind of guided by a bit more down-to-earth things, whereas the man who taught him was like, "We're going this way because I saw a rune in the ice." Okay, but and that's why it's kind of on his own. Gundr was very much guided by practical things. And the minute someone's like, "I had a vision," or "I think we should go this way because I saw something," he's like, "Yeah, okay," because he's seen that work.
That's cool.
Oh yeah.
I really loved when Stig did his speech about how much he hated sheep.
God, that was amazing. Like that whole part of the Rangorn Forest was magical.
That was a little bit of a rant.
It was
a good rant.
Yeah, he
Hey, thanks for the follow.
Yeah, that was part of his backstory that I wrote in, was that the little backstory that I did do for him was that his father was not very supportive of his runic education, and that kind of led to a falling out between the two of them. His father wanted him to, work with sheep, and Stig had probably spent most of his childhood working with sheep and was well over it by that point. So,
you don't want to piss off the future runecaster. That just sounds like a really bad idea.
And teenage Stig's way of rebelling was to run away from home and go live with that crazy
the crazy old wizard on the edge
crazy old wizard at the edge of town.
They knew where Stig was, didn't they? Your family?
Yeah. No, it's
small town.
He ran from one side of town to the other side of town. He was probably like 12.
What drew him? One of the questions I had written down for Stig was, what drew him to Saman to do that? What was the connection in his backstory, do you think?
I thought about it for a second, and I was thinking that he at some point picked up prestidigitation, like lighting a small flame, just kind of on his own. And the more he kind of thought about it and asked people about it, it kind of led him to go ask Saman a bunch of questions and stuff like that.
What the fuck's up with Saman? Like, what was his backstory?
Well, Saman was
killed a guy.
I didn't write too much about his backstory, but hold on, I did write something here. That was most of we see Saman later in life. He is kind of living retired as a town runewalker, kind of like the local magician figure, even though anyways, but in his youth he traveled a lot and was an adventurer, basically roamed around, and that's kind of where Stig got his kind of wanderlust, his kind of yearning for adventure, is just sitting around for years hearing about Saemon's travels and all his adventures, and that kind of informed a lot of that motivation in Stieg to kind of get out there and see the world.
Kind
That
of
was-
a classic apprentice kind of thing where
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
just want to get out there and be the best wizard you can be.
Yep.
What?
You can be the very
That was the
best.
first wizard class you've played, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That
Dude,
was the first time I played a
you
wizard.
nailed it, man. That was cool, and that's like it seemed very complex with all the runes and stuff. Like when I looked at that in the book, I thought it was really cool, but I was like, oof. So that was a good move. It was awesome to have a wizard, a rune walker in the party for sure.
I thought I was gonna die for sure.
Yeah,
Like after our first couple of encounters, like
It was touch
especially
and go
that,
there for a while.
especially
Yeah, it
that
was.
that tower encounter where there was just like
Oh yeah.
that one like kind of that was like, okay, he's gonna die. He's got like 18 hit points or something like that.
Well,
at, like,
That was
you
brutal.
You got knocked out.
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
you?
I went down in that
Yeah.
battle for sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
you got taken down.
So
I fucked you up.
yeah.
Stieg, yeah, he
Like
had a
death
lot of
saves?
bravado.
Were you doing death
Yeah.
saves?
No, I
You-
don't think so. I think Ashley brought me back.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he didn't quite get to a death save, but he was down and would have made a death save, but she got to him
I was
first.
actually down. We were fighting a Draugr. I was down. She got
Swarm
me
of
up, and then I-
Draugrs
and then I
crushed
stabbed a
between
Draugr
Draugrs and bandits.
with my spear, and I got a
Steve's
natural
kind of a
20.
big talker.
Yeah, Stieg's got some bravado, but he was actually kind of scared shitless most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say the paladin cleric combo was super fucking resilient for moments like that.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
the minute
Having
we got
both of
two
them?
people who are
Yeah.
just like bow, 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 bow.
Mhm.
No, get the hell up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was crucial. Always
For
have a
sure.
cleric in your party, folks. And if you can
Oh,
bring a
yeah.
paladin, do it.
hmm
Solid. I had a couple of
yeah.
other like moments that I thought were fucking kick ass. For one of the things that I really had a fun doing was when we were fighting that Issa worm in that kind of shy Halud moment where Vidar jumped on its back. That was fun. And I
Fucking
just watched
rad.
Dune, so I was like, oh, yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
gonna be fun.
Me too. It's like, aha, yeah, it's time.
That was super cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
That was a fun fight.
I wanted to know something else. I wanted to know is what happened to Vider's parents?
They
Like-
were murdered. They were murdered in a raid, and he was taken by Gorm and taken as a thrall, and grew up with the Gorm's Rangers, as you know this. But he was sort of, they took to him as like a son, and he looked to Gorm as a father. So it was more than just like a thrall. Hey, go do this. Take care of this. I mean, he definitely had chores and stuff, but he built a relationship through because he had that sort of inherent rangery potential.
Now, did
And so-
Gorm's? Sorry, I didn't.
No,
wanna
go ahead.
interrupt.
No, go
Um,
ahead.
Did Gorm's Rangers kill his parents, or were they
I mean, that's
kind of in
sort-
the same area and a bunch of shit was going down?
It could go either way. I kind of, when I first envisioned it was Gorm's Rangers that were involved, but they're not. After I thought about it more, they're not. I don't know if they're really that type of group. So it may be that they maybe found him or something.
The Rangers
know?
might have been working with another group that did it, like the town militia or whatnot.
Yeah, they
That's
might have
entirely
maybe they
possible.
were running like scout, because like ultimately like Mulgore is like a few miles from the border between Green Lights to the east and fuck
That next kingdom.
yeah, why can't I remember what it is right now?
I never remember its name. It's okay.
Not Neomin.
Yeah, because I think isn't the river the border?
yeah,
Technically, we crossed the border to go to Fogbear.
Yeah,
Allsvarder,
Fogbear is technically in Allsvarder.
Technically, we
Yeah, so
caused an
there's-
international incident.
There's like all kinds. There's always like kind of border skirmishes between Mulgore and like Natafarovic, and the communities along the Hannon Forest and stuff. kind of going both ways all the time, which isn't something we necessarily really got into, but
yeah. So Vidar didn't know anything about his parents. He was too young. He was very, very young when that happened. And so whether it was Gorm, probably Gorm's Rangers didn't actually kill his parents, but maybe they were involved, like Chad's saying, and they found this baby maybe even, and took it into their house as a thrall. And then later, he was granted his freedom, as we saw in one of the early episodes, as he became a freeman, which
was a cool fucking episode, FYI.
That was really good, and that was a big moment for him. And then he sort of started to open up a little bit more after that in terms of his communication and stuff like that. He became more of a party member, not just a guide. But yeah. I have a question for you, Chad.
Yeah, man.
How did you decide in this huge, amazingly deep and rich world of Svilland to put us in Mulgore? Of all the places you could have decided, like when you were first thinking about, I'm going to run a campaign.
Cool name.
That mountain that they renamed.
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, a part of it was that, like, it sounded fucking rad. Like Mulgoroth, the last town in the north, like just that kind of sounded really cool to me. And I had kind of conceived when I kind of began, even before I kind of picked out like the place, kind of part of what I had conceived was kind of a very kind of winter centric sort of campaign or story arc. And so like this, like, yeah, there are technically places in Svilland, even towns in Svilland that are further north than Mulgore, but it is known as the last town in the north. And so I guess it seemed like a really cool, like between that and I really liked some of the kind of the lore, the brief lore that's in the Mulgore section of the book, like about the two the Storytellers Inn and the Northest Inn and some of the different, like the Jarl is known for taming eagles.
Yeah, it's
like,
pretty cool.
That's fucking cool. That's metal as hell, man.
Yeah.
And and then it kind of sits between like the haunted forest of Rangorn and like Fogbear's village and kind of all this. It's kind of at this really kind of crossroads of like really interesting stuff. And I just kind of felt like it was a interesting place. And I didn't want to do the super obvious, like, hey, we're playing a Norse-inspired campaign. Everyone's a Viking. We're on a ship and we're doing Viking things. Like, that's just like, I think that's cool and I want to do that. But for this kind of my idea of like a back end into kind of this campaign and introducing people to it, I didn't want to kind of do what people would maybe expect.
I think that brings up a really interesting point. I don't know how the rest of you feel. Some of you are dungeon masters in your own games and stuff, but the importance of a cool map to inspire ideas for, I mean, how long have we've been doing this since February? This was our 33rd or 34th session. I mean, we spent a lot of time in an area, doing things that are really came out of you're being drawn to this part of a map.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at some of the details. I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. So map makers out there.
Super importante. Every time I try and do something, I go to a map or make one. Because the sense of place is important.
Mm-hmm.
At least.
And that's like one of the things that really keeps me like loving this campaign setting more, and the work that these guys and gals have done. Like in the in the world, in the kind of like places section of the book where it talks about all the different areas, there's a place, and I want to see it. It's in Austria. It's like on the south. It's on the South Sea. It's along the shore, but there's a whole like road that they talk about in the book. This road runs between these two towns, and it's along this super rocky, dangerous coast. And it's a series of inns along this road. And they have a paragraph about each inn. Like, this is the weird ass inn run by this weird guy who used to be he's like a transplant from this place. He was a soldier, and there's like a bear head above the bar, and it's like this, like, and it's known for this kind of food. Like, they did a lot of really cool, really interesting world building in this campaign setting that, like, you can pick a spot on this map and I want to run a game there. Like, realistically, there's so much good stuff here.
Yeah, like, what's going on at Eagleside Castle?
Impressed.
Eagleside Castle.
Like the little readouts of each little town and everything like that.
A lot of the
a lot
book
of good
is
little story hooks in there.
And a huge section of the book is the gazetteer of the world. It's really a lot of, which you could put into any campaign, even if it wasn't part of Svilland. There's so much content in there. Little plug for DRS. I'm going to put a little link to their stuff in the chat.
But yeah, it was just like, I spent some time looking through the book and like, oh, what do I kind of know what I want to do. Like, this would be cool. This would be like, I had a few different ideas, and yeah, I finally just was like, this place sounds really rad. I'm going to pick this place.
Sexy place.
And none of what we did is even like a part of what I had initially intended.
It's the beauty of D&D.
Like, I have
what had you initially intended?
I have a whole different adventure that I decided that we might come back to in the very, in the next sort of thing. But so I'm not going to spoil that.
Yeah, don't spoil it. Here's a question that you could maybe spoil. And again, maybe this is just Dave didn't catch all of the detail, but what Mavnus, what was his end point? What was he ultimately trying to do? What the fuck's up with that?
So, weren't
they trying to like call forth the goddess Hel into a physical body?
To what end, though? Just to bring.
Kind of what we heard from that other Hell worshiper, but that was the only time we heard anything about his actual end goal.
We also heard that he kind of had a following out with like some of those Hell worshippers, and that he was kind of doing his own thing.
Yep, kind of the way I. So it kind of took a left turn a little bit from where I had initially envisioned some of it going, as happens if you're a DM, you know how that goes. But kind of part of his thing is that he was a seeder, and I'm actually super annoyed because I statted him up preparing for that last fight, and I statted him up as a seeder and Hell priest.
Oh my.
So he was a Gothi of Hell. And I cast one spell on you and it failed. And I was like, why didn't I use, like, I only wrote down certain things on on my stat up of him. And they were all like, okay, I'm going to write this down because this is a cool spell, or because this is a very like Hell focused Gothi power. I was like, I even starred one and then I didn't use it. I chose like a throwaway spell that didn't work. So I was a little annoyed about that, but part of his, like, after he got kicked out and kind of run out of, like, banished from town after these events that had happened in the past, and he was like, as he was like beginning to get kind of corrupted by Hell or get what's the word,
Ill-tubated.
You know, when you're like
possessed or
Indoctrinated?
tempted. As he got tempted with power and hell, he started kind of getting into like some human sacrifice and some of these different things,
Like
which
you
is
do.
what he ultimately got run out of town for. And so one of the things he was trying to do there in that space was kind of get back his kind of like right hand guy, which is this guy Trieg, who was originally I even have it in my notebook that there was like I wrote down like 3 different plots. There was kind of the plot that you guys ended up doing, and then there was a whole plot that we didn't really get to until I kind of threw it in way at the end because I could never really make it work, which was the whole like Haldus plot. And then there's this other plot, which is that Trieg, I conceived that Trieg was that initially they couldn't kill him because he kept coming back, and so that his spirit was like locked in a place. And so part of what was happening with some of these other plots was that they were getting these things that were going to allow him to be freed. And then I just kind of like, I was like, we're not even going over here. I haven't fed anybody that stuff, so I'm not even going to bother with it. But I kind of hinted a little bit at like a bit of the idea of what that was. And so he was going to try to bring back Trieg, that guy, to help as a cursed warrior, which is a super disgusting stat block from the Svilland monster section. It's so nasty. Who was going to...
Thanks for dispelling that, Steeg.
Yeah.
Good. Well done, FYI.
Yeah.
no
He wanted a
shit.
Trieg and he got a Steeg instead.
Hey.
But
And then
Cursed warrior, you say?
ultimately just kind of like the whole thing of like the split of the hell people was that part of Magnus's thing is that he was the one who was kind of behind some of like that assault on Mulgore. And part of his deal was that he was kind of bent on revenge. Like he was super pissed off that the town had like cast him out and like made him nothing and kind of cut his social power. So he was trying to build a new power base to get a very simple, easy to understand and extrapolate revenge plot against the town. And so he was trying to perverse hell's power to that end, which the normal hell cult, equally not good dudes, but we're not down with like, oh, you're trying to control hell's power and influence in that.
Nah,
way.
man, you work for her.
Yeah.
God, I'm wishing we had gotten into that Haldus subplot now. That would have been fun.
So there was, when you guys first came back to town and you ran into her in on the way to see the Jarl, like my original intent, and in my notes, it's like you run into her, but she's talking to the Jarl, and you see that something happens, and there was going to be like, you kind of see this moment, and as players, you're like, that's a little weird. And then I was going to my intent was to then feed some more stuff, but you know how I do. I just I was like, nah, you run into her on the way there, and
Well,
and
we
then
didn't
it just-
spend. I had
Yeah.
expected us to spend more time in town than we did.
Right.
I think that's where that would have happened.
And I kind of like, that was my intent. Like, and I said this when we started, that was one of the things that I really wanted to do a little bit more of, was kind of try to like play on this kind of town relationship and all these things a little bit more. And it didn't pan out. I'm happy with the way things went. It was, it was super good. And, but yeah, I've been thinking about as preparing for this day, today, like I was thinking about it this week, and I was like, yeah, I mean, this is just a good example of how of how real D&D goes, right? Like you can plan and you can plan and you can plan. You're like, I'm going to do it like this. And then you're just like, no. It's just, it happens and it's organic. And you just flow with it and it's fine. But yeah, my intent was that there was going to be a whole like veiled subplot of like you guys were doing this thing, and then like Haldus was trying to make power moves on the side. And I was like really trying to think of it like as fronts, like from say like from Dungeon World or whatever, where like you guys do this thing and these other things happen because you didn't do those things, and you kind of see pieces of it happen or whatnot. And some of it is when I could have, I didn't really sell things. And so then I was like, I'm not going to try to make these things happen when I'm not showing that, I'm not giving you hints that they have happened, because that's frankly, that's not good storytelling in an RPG space. To like, oh, and when you weren't looking, these things happened and now you're fucked. Like, that's just not good, in my opinion anyway. And I didn't want to do those things. So I just kind of changed a little bit of the trajectory, and you have to be okay with it as a DM, That's a long way around that answer.
Yeah.
But yeah. Any other questions? Any questions from anyone in the audience? Any
audience people?
Any people in Twitch chat who have hopefully been watching for such a long time? Like Ty Thanos. I know you've been around for a while. Time Lord's wife, you've seen a few episodes, unless you're lurking. Do you have any questions? Anything you're itching to know?
We still love a lurker.
We do.
Lurking
is working.
I don't want to say that like I'm throwing shade. Like I get it, but yeah. Yeah, I guess
questions.
I don't have any questions anymore. You guys answered them all for me.
I'm kind of wondering, like Chad and I worked out so much back information. So Astrid's background was destined. And I don't know if we have reached what she was supposed to be destined for. The initial character class is supposed to have like some kind of premonition or like, letter written about like a prophecy of what you're destined to do that somebody knows and tells you. But I just let Chad, have free reign. I don't even know what I was destined for.
That makes two of us.
Well, you did. Astrid did.
Come.
She got some visions, right? That led her in certain directions. Maybe that was part of it.
Yeah, and
Could have been.
we got the sword and we saved the town, but is that what she was destined for?
Yeah, I don't know. I will say that I have thought about it. I have thought about it quite a lot, and I hadn't brought it up, partially because shit happens and I would forget to. But I really sometimes I'd be like, yeah, like it would be like she's destined to fucking stop hell from doing whatever, doing this, doing these things that you guys did. But then I would be like, yeah, that's a little weak. Like, that's just me like trying to tack on stuff to what you guys are already doing. And so I would say that like, I think from her, as far as her story goes, like that's her destiny is still out there. Like her fate, her weird, as they would say in old Norway, is unseen or is undetermined yet by mechanically by us.
She's
Right,
just getting
we'll
started.
find
She-
out.
Her journey is just getting
but,
started.
Oh,
We got a
It's
question
still, like-
from Tythalanos asks a question to the players. Did something change about your character once you started playing that you hadn't planned?
I had an inverse of that situation actually. I didn't really change where Gundar was pointed until too late, and I should have, because I was definitely envisioning him and his story arc being very tied to the town, the things that were happening in town among the power factions in the group. Hence the that Haldus thing would have been great. But as the campaign kind of went on and it was very much oriented towards the stuff happening outside of town, I didn't really swivel the character to really, like, he focused on it, but it was very focused in the, well, these guys are doing it and I need to help defend the town. But it never really got personal for him. Because that's not how I had rigged the character, and I should have changed that.
Mm-hmm.
I did as well change Astrid a little bit. I created a very traumatized, introverted character, and I realized after a few campaigns that no one was an extrovert. And nobody was poking at each other, like asking questions or like, how do you feel or what's going on? And I'm just like, oh crap. We're all just going to sit in silence and not talk about our traumas for role-play this entire campaign. So
You are all
that
playing essentially Scandinavian archetypes. We don't
Exactly.
talk about shit.
was right.
Just stuff it
Midwestern
down
of us.
deep. Yeah.
So I started, I did stuff like, I'm just going to blurt out things about my past for the group so that I can start giving the group questions to ask about
Like
me.
seed the conversations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also actually why in our Wednesday night game, I chose to play a very extroverted in everybody's business character. Because like every group really needs that, like that connector character, the one who is either, poking at everybody or asking questions or caretaking for the role play. Just to get it moving and juicy.
I would say for Vidar, as a ranger, he, I came out of the gate as having him be, he's going to be that classic like archer, like the bowman, and he excelled at that. But then I pivoted. I don't remember what level it was, but I think it was after a big moment for him was that tower battle. That was where he actually killed the first person he ever killed was at that battle. And he did it. I think it was with the swords. I can't really remember, but that whole scene with him like climbing up the side of the tower and then going in and fighting the big bad. And so then I was just like, you know what? Rangers, why do Rangers have to be like a ranged? That doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And I was
I
like,
always
no.
played them as dual wielders.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm taking
can
Zephyr
kind of go either
Strike. He's going to be fast and he's going to be deadly with the blade. And then, so I just kind of pivoted on that. So that was a change that I hadn't anticipated when I created him. But I usually create my backstory like kind of on the, I set up just a little bit. I don't do pages of backstory. I did a couple bullets and then I
didn't do that for Stieg either. I was kind of like, I've done that for like Saltmarsh and for like a couple of our other games. But for this one, I was just like, I'm not going to write a big story. He's a young guy that has lived in Mulgore his whole life. And like this campaign is going to be his backstory, so. And then like I was thinking back on some of the stuff that he went through, and it's kind of like his leveling up process was kind of his like coming of age as a rune walker. Like he started out with all this abstract knowledge from Saymond, and then once he was out there in the thick of it, he was like putting it to use. It really kind of hit home when he was like making those medallions. He kind of figured out how to do it by just examining the medallion from Gurney. And so like he was just like, oh, this makes sense to me because I know like what this combination of runes would. Well, I've never seen this combination before, but it makes like the way it's put together makes sense. So, I thought that was pretty interesting. It kind of came out naturally, I guess.
Oh yeah. And I think as I will tell anyone, and as I have said before, to just today, I have pivoted every episode. Every episode, I'm like, here's my plan, and then I would just like, burp. Nope, I'm talking now, and this other thing happened.
Oh shit!
Did I
and
just
then you're
say that?
like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
I just yeah, like there were what were some of the, there were a couple of, there were like at least 3 big things that happened, whether it was like you guys had asked a question of somebody about something, or something had happened where I was just like, it was something that was obviously written in my notes one way, and I was just like riffed and just like kind of went left instead of right. But that's what I love about DMing is
we've all been there.
is that
repeatedly.
space, yeah, where you're just like, we're creating stuff on the fly, and
that's why
I want to be open to it.
I'm a big fan of that, lazy DM style, which is actually how I'd been doing it kind of the whole time. It's just make notes on a note card. We'll see what we use.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So does anybody have anything else?
There's one more question that just came in.
Oh, there is.
Oh.
Yep, for Chad. What is one
what is-
thing from the book that a player could have chosen that no one did that you would have loved to see?
So Andy was torn between choosing a cedar and a rune walker. And rune walker is cool. I really was hoping somebody would play a cedar. They're
Just wanted to fuck with our
fucking
dreams.
so cool. I'm glad that somebody was a Gothi, and that somebody was a really interesting Gothi. Somebody playing a ranger was really cool because like the ranger options in this book are awesome. Same with the paladins, but I was really hoping that somebody would play a cedar because
Thanks for the follow.
like they're so steeped in like lore in the book, and they really just come across like really really interesting, and I was really looking forward to like telling a story in kind of that way, by using that as like a touchstone, and using the triggers that a cedar would give.
Dream walking.
Yeah, so cool. Like
6th
spirits and dream walking and like just some of the interesting stuff that they have.
Spirit form. Jesus. I mean, that's 20th level, but
Yeah, like
you transform into a spirit for 1
it's
minute.
So good.
Yeah, it's crazy. And plus this awesome piece of art. I mean,
Oh yeah. Yeah, and
that's ridiculous.
I'm listening to fucking High Lung like every time I'm prepping for a session, like listening to people who are dressed like this image, like do a concert
God, I'd love to see
or
that.
a ritual, as they would say. Just so, man.
Very immersive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess as far as character options, that's like the big thing. That nobody chose.
Level 1, baby, right here.
I think like the Dvergar, somebody playing a Dvergar would have been interesting. I was actually really surprised that everyone essentially played a human.
Yeah.
That was my loophole character. If Astrid had
Yeah.
died,
Was it Vergar?
yeah, I was gonna ask to be a Diverger who was looking for that sword, like from the
Nice.
other end of the
That would have been
contract.
sweet. That would have been
Mhm.
dope.
Yeah,
But yeah, nobody picked Vergar. Nobody picked Half Jotun. Those things are they're brutal.
If I had died, I was going to come back as a half Jotun.
Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I
I was
love the backdoor characters.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was-
know, right?
I was a little surprised. Not entirely surprised, but I was a little surprised that we just didn't have a party of like Rangers, fighters, and barbarians.
Right.
But because some of those options in here in the book are like the shieldsman / shieldswoman
Yeah.
is such an awesome subclass for fighter. The few different like barbarians, like the berserker, is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really considering a half Jotun barbarian.
Yeah.
Multi-Jotun.
But yeah, I hadn't played a wizard. Yeah. The wizard won out. in
Yeah,
end.
the wizard. I like the Runewalker is such a cool like wizard alternative. Like it's wizard, but then there's these few things that are very different.
Yeah.
and kind
yeah,
of-
totally.
Like there's whole extra options. Like they were like, here's a wizard, here's things that are very wizard, and then they're like, we're gonna bolt on a whole extra like choice that
Yeah.
you all get, which was like the path.
Yeah, the paths that they could
Because there's your
choose
subclass,
from
but then you also pick a path.
Yep.
Which I guess from a design perspective, there are a few like core 5e classes that have those options where you're like essentially picking two things, but not everybody does. Why is that? Mike Merrills, Jeremy Crawford. Why is there only like
Well,
A
you
couple of
see, shut
yeah,
the hell
right.
up, Chad Gallagher.
No,
Here we
but
go.
it's interesting. But yeah, I like the Runewalker is super cool. I like it.
I'm gonna make a
All right.
Chad. I'm making a Chad rant emote.
There needs to be one. Yeah,
Yep,
right?
there will be. That's gonna happen in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I think that like let's wrap there.
Mhm.
For this, we've got a couple of minutes left, or if we want to go a little bit over. And let's talk about what's next. Because we're still gonna play games. We're still playing games on Thursdays.
Mhm.
But we are I don't remember if I've talked about it on stream
Nope.
or not.
think we
Nope,
have.
has not been
No.
mentioned.
I know we haven't talked about what we're specifically doing. I'm trying to remember if I've talked about like what kind of my intent for Thursdays is going forward. So I'm going to talk about that really quick first, and then we'll talk about what's next. So kind of my intent going forward is I have a lot of games that I want to play or that I want to run, a lot of different systems, a lot of different stories. And I know that some of my players also have different things that they would like to get into. And while some people would consider what we have just wrapped to be a short-ish campaign, it was almost a year. It was 6 levels. I want to do some shorter things and do more of them, across the scope of a year or whatever, to be able to tell some different stories, play some different games, try some different modalities, and that sort of thing. And so to that end, our next game, which we'll have session 04 next
roll,
week,
please.
next Thursday, we will be running Kids on Brooms.
Yay!
Oh yeah.
Is this
Which
backwards?
is
No, it's good.
There you go.
On the
There it
screen.
is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, on the stream, is it backwards? Maybe.
No, it's not.
No, it's perfect.
When I look at Zoom, it's backwards, but for everybody else, it's the right
No,
way.
it's perfect.
It's right on my
Yeah.
Zoom, so hey.
Yep, looks good.
Got
We're
it in the
playing
mail
Kids on
today.
Brooms.
Kids on Brooms.
What?
I'm super excited. This is it's like a complete like 180 sort of thing from
Svilland, especially.
Yeah, from this game. It's like my intent is that it's going to be a bit lighter. You're essentially magical children in a school learning how to be wizards. Kind of set in a quasi real world with, not unlike Harry Potter or
The Magicians.
the Magicians, or whatever.
The Dresden Files.
The Dresden Files, yeah. So it's a much more, if you're not familiar with the system, Kids on Brooms is a kind of subsystem, a sister system to Kids on Bikes, which is essentially what if Stranger Things and or games that are like Stranger Things or stories like Stranger Things, like say the Goonies, very much kid focused. Adults aren't really helpful in any way ever.
Only we can do
It's
it.
true in real world too.
It's like a Steven Spielberg movie.
To include in your second series of movies. Why isn't Dumbledore ever helpful? Ever? Even when he's a younger person, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Anyway. Yeah, but I'm super excited. So we're gonna like kind of create a whole sort of narrative framework, a setting in session 0, and then create characters and there's actually essentially a free campaign if you are interested in something like Kids on Brooms and don't want to do a lot of the work. For free RPG Day, I think last year, maybe the year before, they did a whole 10 or 12 like module arc of stories. Like it's a complete thing, and I'm going to kind of use that as a framework so I don't have to do so much heavy lifting, as kind of a little bit of a narrative framework and as a way to see, this is what this kind of game is supposed to look like, since this is not anything like I've ever run before.
It's a good call. How many? When you say it's going to be a shorter relative to what we've just done, what are you thinking in terms of?
It's like 10 weeks, 10 episodes, not counting session 0. It's like 2.5 months, give or take. It might run a session or two longer depending on how things happen, and and then we'll figure out what's next, and we'll try something else, I'm excited. It's something new. Don't get me wrong, I love 5e and I love D&D, but I got so many. Like I said at the beginning of the fucking show, I backed a lot of Kickstarters. I got a lot of shit on my bookshelf that I want to play, that I spent money on. I want to play it. I want to run it. I'm interested. I think my players might enjoy it. I think you as an audience might enjoy it. I want to try it out. And then we'll come back to 5e until there's so much different stuff in 5e coming out, obviously. And absolutely, we need variety. I don't want to get stuck in a rut. I want to try different ways of playing, because some people will tell you otherwise, but I have a hard time finding different modalities in 5e. And I say that, and I haven't even looked at Witchlight, which I'm told is a very non-D&D game.
It's different,
but at the same time,
but there's so much other shit out there. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of great games.
Literally, you're like, I'm gonna do a mage thing. I'm like, wizards are my jam. Yeah. We could do like Mage the Ascension, or we could do like the Fate version for Dresden Files, or we could get Cult Divinity Lost. It's like, oh shit, and I won't be here.
Yeah. Or we could just do, kids.
Kids on Brooms. Still kids a good call.
Yeah.
Like the kids. Looking forward to
so
it.
Much good stuff.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dave and I have plans that we need to solidify. I know plans. For
us. We're
one
planners.
shots. We've got some one shots, some short shots coming up this winter.
We got we should probably mention too, we're gonna be teaming up with some other streamers to do a couple of pretty substantial charity events. So that's gonna be fun. We've got a couple things on the calendar that we'll be talking about more. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming up, and we're glad that the folks in the chat are with us. We appreciate you so much for being on these adventures and journeys with us. And Kids on Brooms is going to be fucking awesome. I can't wait. I've got some ideas. Ashley and I were rapping about it the other night about our characters, and I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
And now that
at least already,
not even close to that. Not even close to that.
Now that at least
Ashley only has like 4 or 5 pages of backstory, so she's not even halfway there yet.
Right, I know, right?
I'm feeding her some that I had ideas for.
Stop
too,
it
just
now.
And now that some of you have the book and can look at it, I would like, since I know that you'll think about it, I would like to throw out there that I would like you not to consider playing teachers.
Oh, hell no.
Because that's an option, right? So in Kids on Brooms, you can play a variety of levels of student or a teacher.
Teacher, give me a
Chad,
break.
I don't wanna,
Chad, can I play an unhelpful teacher?
Teachers get spitballs. Everybody knows that.
I know. Just you get occasional emails from a teacher that's like, they left a message. You didn't clean up after class. Detention for 10 weeks.
Spitball.
10 points from
Spitball.
Gryffindor.
Magical spitballs.
Magical spitballs.
That's the jam. That's my jam. I just created my backstory. Magical spitballs. All right.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, there's some cons this year, like last year that we were a part of last year, that we're really hoping to be I mean, at least one of them I'm planning on running shit at Gamehole Con again this year.
Hell yeah.
Virtually or in person?
TBD.
Oh man, we'll see. I would love to go to a con this year, but I don't know yet. Yeah, there's some big events that we've Dave and I have talked about. We want to try to be a part of. So keep an eye out for those sorts of things. If you followed us in the past, you might know what some of those things are. But I don't want to say much more other than that. I will be trying to do something at Gamehole Con because that's something I can personally confirm that I will be doing. But
now we have to listen to Chad promote Gamehole Con for 8 months.
I'm not going to do it. I mean, the house, like they just said.
Yes, he is.
We just got the first. I'm not going to. No.
I still have the mute button,
not
guys.
Until June.
I have the mute button at my beck and call here. All right.
But yeah, again, thank you, Dave, Ashley, Andy, Michael. This has been an absolute blast. You guys have all been wonderful. Yeah, it's been a real treat at kind of exploring these characters and exploring Svilland and exploring the resiliency that you miraculously all have as characters.
Can't hold us down.
And thanks for putting up with my insanity in some ways. And thanks to everyone who has watched this. If any of you are out there and you've been watching this from the beginning, as I said at the beginning, huge thank you. That means a hell of a lot. This is I think I'll be honest. This is, you know what? This isn't my first. I was about to say this is my first complete campaign, but I did in fact complete the Dragon of Icespire Peak. Although some would argue that's not a complete campaign, but I did complete that box set.
This is my first complete campaign.
Yay!
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna preface this with I've been playing TTRPGs for almost like 28 years now. This is my 4th or 5th completed campaign.
And I'll say this is my
Maybe.
first one. This is my second one that I've completed as a DM.
Oh,
That has actually that has completed. Not that I've played
Right?
it. I've completed some campaigns that I've played in before, but this is the first. This is the second one now that I've completed, that has come to a completion or the end of an arc at least.
what is this
as a DM.
completion thing? It's
Ooh,
new and
we can-
weird, and I don't know what to do
Weird.
about it.
a man and a
You don't
woman.
know? You haven't been told about this yet?
Finish a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
Finish a D&D campaign. Everyone levels up.
It's
There's
about
a
when
new character that appears. But anyway,
disbelieve.
if any of you have been hanging out since the beginning,
They're all
again,
gone
thank
now.
you so much. If any of you have
They're all
joined
gone
in
now.
and have been around,
This is called a
Thank
Minnesota
you.
goodbye.
please come back. We'll see you next week for session 0. Then we're going to take a week off of Thursdays as I kind of get ready for session 1, which will be in 2 weeks. Wait, in 3 weeks rather. Which is
to digest the pages and pages of backstory that we'll
Oh
come
my-
up with.
God.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
a publisher lined up, Ashley.
Magical spitballs.
All
That's all I
right.
need.
Yeah,
I can
so
I can run with that.
It's his full character.
The 13th will be session 0, and then the 27th will be the first session.
And don't forget,
Um,
folks, tomorrow night, Knights and Bikes charity stream. Come on over and hang out and say hi and watch the silliness unfold. We'll be back next
gonna
week
be
with
sweet.
Salt Marsh. We got a lot going on.
Yeah. And remember, you won't see Michael for a while.
So say goodbye,
So-
Michael.
Say goodbye, Michael.
Goodbye,
Michael.
End stream. End stream. That's it.
Bye, guys.
Anyway.
Bye.